Okay, we're continuing with the notes for section 5.4 in Algebra 2. And this is page 3, and we're going to learn a method of factoring called the star method. There's other methods out there, including one that Photomath does. Make sure you don't use that method. Okay, so what we have here is a trinomial. And the first thing we always do is we look for a greatest common factor in that trinomial. In this case, the greatest common factor is 5. 5 divides into all of the terms. But because there's a negative in the front, and we don't want that, we're going to actually factor out the opposite of that GCF, in other words, negative 5. So let me come down here and I'll show you that action. Negative 5 times the 3 terms here has to give this one back. So if you pretend you're distributing, negative 5 times 8x squared would be the first round. And then once you've done that, you multiply the negative 5 times positive 2x. And that would give this term. And finally, you have to ask yourself, what do you have to multiply negative 5 by to get the last one? And in that case, it's negative 3. So we've completed that type of factoring. We've pulled out the negative 5, and you can see here's the multiplication right there, that little dot I put in there. And that's the multiplication that we created, and factoring means create a multiplication problem. So we're not done yet, because this trinomial that we still have inside the parentheses is going to break down again, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But before we get to the star method, you can kind of see my little snowflake star on the side there. I'm going to go ahead and set up the answer way down at the bottom of the page. I'll use the margin down there. And we're going to keep the negative 5 as part of our answer, and we're going to break down the trinomial into these factors here. Okay, so let me go back up here, and I'll show you the star method in action. All right, the way this works is you start with the leading term, and you put it on the angel wing side of it. So this 8x squared is going to go on what I call the wings, and I'm going to label them that way so you know what I'm referring to. Wing and wing. This is like an asterisk or a snowflake or a star. Anyway, we're going to put 8x squared here and another one over here. Same one on both sides. Okay, the next thing you do is you put ax squared times c up there, and it would be the front. This is the ax squared part, and the c is the back part. So we multiply those together, negative 24x squared, and that goes up here, negative 24x squared. Underneath it, you put this middle term. That's the bx part, so just 2x there. Okay, now our goal is to come up with two expressions, one over here and one over here, that multiply to give the top value, and the same two have to add to give the bottom value. And that's how we finish this star. And then there'll be a couple simple steps to complete our answer. Okay, so the numbers that multiply to give 24, I'm going to list them here. We could have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. And we're trying to get them to add up to this 2x here. So I'm trying to get numbers that multiply to give 24, those pairs are listed, but also that add to give 2. Now what we have here, this pair of numbers add up to 25, or you could change the sign on both of them, like make one negative 1 and negative 24, and then they would add up to negative 25. You could make that one negative, and then they would add up to 23. You could make this one negative, and you could add up to negative 23, but you can't get 2 out of those numbers. This pair would add up to 14, or negative 14 if you changed both sides. If you made that negative, you could add those add up to 10, or switching the signs, negative 10. But we're trying to get 2 there. These could add up to either 11, or if one of them is negative 5, and the opposite of those numbers. And I think we have our answer here. We're going to use 4 and 6 and make this the negative. Now we have to tack the x on each of these to make this all work. Okay, let's see. Do these expressions add up to the bottom one and multiply to give the top one? And the answer is yes, they do. Okay, so we're one step away from our answer here. 2, but it's going to be pretty obvious when we get done here. You want to treat this left-hand side here as a fraction. Likewise, this as a fraction. So that center line there becomes kind of like a fraction bar. So we have over here 8x squared over 6x. And we have to simplify that, in this case, by dividing top and bottom by 2x. Which then, if you divide the top by 2x, you get 4x. If you divide the bottom by 2x, you just get 3. We're going to do the same sort of thing over here. Divide both top and bottom by 4x. You'll get a 2x on top. And when you divide this by 4x, you get a negative 1. Okay, a couple things about these fractions. You always want to have a numerator and a denominator, even if you have a number 1 there. And the other thing is negatives always go on the bottom, the denominator. So what we have here is the answer staring us in the face. And I'm going to show you this by, first of all, highlighting where I'm looking on the star. If I take that part there, I'm going to turn it sideways down here. And instead of 2x over negative 1, I put the 2x beside the negative 1 like that. And I've got my factor. Now I'm going to switch colors here, and you're going to see me do the same with the other one. That, when you turn it sideways, and I'll fill it in here, is going to give 4x plus 3. Okay, the only thing I need to do now is check to see if this really works here. And so I'm going to ask whether the first times the first actually gives us 8x squared. That would be yes. The last two, negative 1 and 3, when you multiply them, you get that last one there. And the middle term here is always a combination. So here's 6x on the outside minus 4x on the inside actually gives 2x. So we've got it factored down here. And the factoring is that multiplication right in the middle, the two parentheses back to back. Okay, so we're going to do another one like this, and then we're going to streamline it and make it a little easier on the next page. So we will pick up in the next video on page 4.